42 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good cash, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikon, and we're here on 95 South Podcast. Once again, I want to thank God for this opportunity to be on here and to be able to, have this opportunity to have this platform to, interview some of these great people that we interviewing this morning. First and foremost, I want to introduce my brother. You know what I'm saying? My right hand man. You know what I'm saying? King Jacob. What's going on, big dog?
What's up, man? What's up? Good morning, everybody, man. And thanks, people, for joining in and tuning us with us. We got another star-studded interviewee, and she has a topic that needs to be yelled out loud all across the nation. So welcome.
Yes.
Marty, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, we have a topic that, is heavy across the United States, gun violence. And we want to talk a little bit about gun violence because you experience gun violence. So before we get started, just let the audience know who you are and what you represent.
Okay. My name is Marty Brandon. I'm a Baltimore native. I have a nonprofit here in Baltimore City, KISS Inc., and it stands for Keeping It Safe and Smart. My nonprofit is for young ladies ages 5 to 17, and we help them with their basic resources and their basic needs and resources. I am also a co-author on a book that just was released, Don't Give Up on Love. Yay! 2-time bestseller, and 1-time bestseller in Australia. I'm also a new TV talk show host with a network in Prince George's County, Maryland, WBGR network, the Classic Party Show. I just been at it and putting my feet to the ground and just trying to get out there in the community to help our young people because it's the population that is so needed to be helped right now.
Okay. So Marty, thank you for that warm introduction of yourself and let people know who you are. So, I've interviewed you before, and
yes.
I could barely stay on the interview, as you know. It was hard hearing your story. So, let's rewind back and talk about the gun violence and the tragic display that you faced fighting for your life. Learning how to walk, talk again, all the above. So let's talk about how gun violence hit you and your family so hard. If you can go back to the beginning on how this started.
Yes. So as we all are seeing that gun violence is plaguing the United States terribly, and it's such a sad thing. And every time I see it, it just opened up my wounds from 2020 because I was a victim of gun violence in February 17, 2020. I was shot 10 times by my son's 16-year-old friend. He came to my home and he shot me 10 times. He shot me in my face. He shot me in my left shoulder, the left arm, twice in my left leg, 3 times around my left breast, and twice in my right breast. And none of those bullets hit my major organs. Only thing that was injured on me was my jaw was broke. And that was something that I didn't even need surgery on. Here in Baltimore, we are just seeing that this problem is increasing. And I never thought in a million years that the lady with the red hair who work with young people in the community, who will help anybody, will end up on what we call a page here in Baltimore, Murder Inc. I never thought in a million years that I would be a victim. Who would want to do such thing to me? But because, I'm very vigilant about who comes in my home. I was always beating the sidewalk about my teenage son, about the company that he kept, my husband and I. I was able to recognize my assailant, my perpetrator, and I vowed to myself that as a victim, I was not going to let this go, but I also wasn't going to allow him to have the power over me to not stand up for myself and show up for myself in the court system. So, that's
Okay, so
the deal.
wow, man. Whew, that's heavy, Marty. So, as me and you spoke earlier this week, we just came out of 2022, and we are in the blessed new year of 23, the GOAT year. So, alone, you discussed with me that there was 300 murders in Baltimore City in 2022.
Yes, Baltimore City has seen 300 plus murders. And this is not the first year. We've been seeing this for the last few years. I think we're on like our third year. Prior to that, it was 200 and something plus murders. And we know that with Baltimore is pretty small considering when you have places like Chicago and Detroit, you can kind of sit us inside of those places. And for us to have those kind of numbers for murders, it's really, really sad. I just think that people have lost sympathy and empathy in the communication. Everything is done on impulse. Nobody wants to talk about anything. Everybody just wants to impulsively just do whatever they need to do, and they think because in my situation, how my situation unraveled, my child didn't even have anything to do with what they thought. And so I became the victim of something that wasn't even thought out, And so that's the sad part. You got people that's losing their lives for things that they probably don't even have any involvement in, just the retaliation part of it.
So I'm gonna ask you one more question. I'm gonna let Ikon tap in now, Miss Marie. The perpetrator was somebody that you knew, somebody that we want to say ran around with your son, played ball with your son, and stuff like that. And so for somebody to know you and do that to you, that had to be a heartbreaking feeling. Somebody that I'm pretty sure you've helped them, you helped the young man on his journey, because that's what you do. You help the youth. You know what I mean? So how did that affect you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually?
Mentally, you think like, this is somebody that been in my house before. This is somebody I opened the door to my house. This is someone who sat at my table. This is someone who sat in my living room, and because I am a parent that, in my household, even though I had my husband there, I was the enforcer. I was a mother of 4 sons and 1 daughter. So, I was the enforcer in the household, because I always said to myself, if I had to be a single mom or if something happened to my husband or whatever the case may be, I had to be able to raise these 4 boys and teach them the proper way of living. So, it's emotionally, you just like, well, how do somebody do this to somebody's mother? Because everyone has a mother, everyone is born of a woman. So how do somebody do this? So spiritually, it kicked in for me because I didn't want to live in bondage. So what I had to do is I had to forgive this young man. I had to forgive him for shooting me that many times and trying to take my life, because one, I felt like he's young and I want the same God that saved me to save him somewhere along the line of his journey where he'll be able to come out and say, when I was 16, I made a mistake, but he can save somebody else's life along the way.
Okay. Ikon?
Okay, so this what I want to ask you, because I know you deep in the community and you help out in the community, you do things in the community to try to uplift and bring positivity to the community. And what alarms me more than anything, I was watching this documentary on Chicago, the gun violence in Chicago. And what disturbs me more than anything is how these young people feel like it's normal to take a life. They have no problems, no issues with taking a life. So what are you seeing in the community that you feel like these young people have just given up and like it's so normal for them to just go out and to kill each other at such an alarming rate? What are you seeing?
I think we lost the communication. And this is what I said to my own child the other day. I said to him, life is really simple, but we make it hard. And what I believe is, and this is my opinion, young people aren't listening. If they learn how to listen, they will be able to connect to not only their fleshly parents, but they'll be able to connect to, our Lord and Savior, or whoever they choose to believe in. I just think that they don't have they lost the ability to listen and communicate, because if you can listen and communicate, you can openly, express yourself on how I'm feeling, if I'm angry, if I'm sad. And so I just feel like they lost the ability to listen and communicate. And I think that's like the major problem with them. And they want to fit in. And it's the sad part about it is that they're outnumbered. So it's easier to join them than to say, I don't want to be a part of that. So they're outnumbered. So you're outnumbered by the ones that are causing the problems in the community, versus the ones who want to do right.
Okay, so do you think it's like a cry for help for these young people to basically feel like we have this is the only way we can express ourselves, because the thing about the whole thing with the streets and everything is, even back in the day, me and Jacob talk about this all the time. There used to be a code to the street. So even when your son, even if they thought your son had something to do with it, back in the day, they didn't go after parents. The gold gangsters tell you if they seen a so-called ops with their family, they'll give them a pass to say, "I'll get you on the next go round." So my thing is, it's not even the fact that they're just killing like the person they're opposing, but they're killing people's families, and they don't mind, if a kid, it could be a kid around and they don't care. They'll just let off whatever. So it's like, to me, it's like no kind of respect for themselves, for man of mankind of any sort. So I'm just trying to figure out. It's just it blows my mind how I've gotten this far, how it's gotten this bad.
So I do believe it's a major cry for help, and I had a conversation with a lady last week. She said it starts at home, and I said it used to start at home. This is my opinion. It used to start at home, but it doesn't anymore, because you can have a 2-parent family home where the dad never been to jail, as in my case, hardworking parents, provide, take care of the child, do everything. But once that child leaves out the door and those negative influences come upon them, they tend to fall into line. I just think it's a major cry out for help, because again, the family structure is broken down. We don't have the dads in the home anymore. We don't have, a lot of, like I used to say, my son was outnumbered. You know, he had a dad and a mom in the home that came from a good family, but his friends that he hung around had dads that were deceased, had dads that are incarcerated, moms who probably had to do some strange things to get them what they want, all of that. So I think when kids are exposed to that and have those type of traumas growing up, it becomes a major problem. And I think that's one of the problems. Our kids are affected by a lot of stuff, and so it's a major cry out for help. Major.
There's a couple of things I'm gonna get back to my brother. I was gonna say real quick. So there's a couple of things I've seen and heard from like just watching different interviews and documentaries and things of that sort. And one thing I realized too is one, the this generation doesn't. They feel like our generation had to work too hard to get where we're at. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of despise that whole notion of working that hard to get where we're at. So a lot of it is shortcutting. A lot of it's going a whole different route to get ahead, and they go about it kind of almost like the wrong way to get ahead. And then two, I feel like that they don't feel like we respect them enough to for them to respect us. So that's a couple of things, and then my brother can take back over.
Can I say something on what you just said in reference? I kind of think that to some point I feel that they feel like we work too hard, but I think to a certain point that we given too much to this generation. Back in the late 80s and the mid 80s and late 80s, and just from my experiences and having friends and friends who were in the streets, because we didn't want our children to be out on the corner selling drugs, or we didn't want them to go to jail. I feel like we overcompensated for we overcompensated to them so they wouldn't have to be out there. So we didn't allow them to gain the work ethic, because I was working at age 12. When my neighbors were going out and needed babysitters, I babysitted on the weekend for like $20 a child. So I learned entrepreneurship very young and becoming business minded at a very young age. These young people, I believe they missed that mark because you have so many parents that's overcompensating, so they wouldn't be out there in the streets. So they didn't learn that work ethic like we learned from our parents and our grandparents. I think so now that we overcompensated them so they wouldn't have to work as hard or be on the corners, we're starting to see the result of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just to piggyback off what Steve-O said, Steve-O has said it's not a village anymore. So you don't have that village aspect, and you don't even have grandparents, older cousins, big brothers of the neighborhood. You don't have any of that anymore. And so like you did back in the day, you had people, they didn't have to be kin to you. They just had to be connected with your family. And they can chastise you, they can do whatever, and they can make you get off the block, and you better not send them back. But nowadays, when it comes to parents are so touchy-feely. You can't say nothing to my child. You can't do this. You can't do that. But man, I'm one where I can see why my mother and father be like, if you see him doing something, you get on his ass. You know what I mean? Like I get it. You know what I mean? I didn't get it then, but now I get it.
Right.
And it's so many parents that's the child's friend and not the parent. Like, man, like listen, man, like, why you gotta question everything your mother, your father say, man? Like I wasn't allowed to ask why.
Exactly.
Why? What?
Now, excuse me for cutting you off. I feel like when it comes to our village, the village has been broken down because, of course, like I said, their parents that's not in the household, and also, you got to realize grandma is now 33. She's not 54 or 60 anymore, right? So
Mhm.
grandma is in the club twerking with her daughter, or sitting at the bar with her daughter or son. The new age grandma is down for whatever. There's the new grandma don't have the wisdom that we got from our grandparents. So that village component part of that is gone, because who used to lead the village isn't leading the village anymore. So if you got a grandmother or a granddad that's about that life, who's teaching the child what life really is? you know so we gotta look at all of that. And I just feel like, the generation that we're seeing now, with all this gun violence and everything going on, I just feel like, I had to tell a lady before, I just feel like it's like a field of weeds. They're going to have to die off, right? And it's the unfortunate
Mm,
sad part. It's the
man.
unfortunate sad part that they're going to have to die off, because now we're starting to see these newer generation of young kids that's coming up. They're fighting for against gun violence. They're out there. They're in the streets with Black Lives Matter. They're out there fighting for to conserve energy and all of those things. So they're the new ones that's coming up, who now um, has been raised. We're starting to see more two-parent family homes coming up now. When I had my son, because I had my son at a very young age, we didn't have, I had him in the 80s. We didn't, we were starting to lose that. So now my son's generation, I believe, what is the millennials or whatever. I believe that generation is just like a bad field of weed, a field of weeds that's dying off, and that's the unfortunate part. And then we're going to have these newer ones that's coming in, that's going to change some things. But we have to live through that. That's the part.
Marty,
Before,
like I was telling my partner, Ikon, when I was growing up, when my friends told me their daddy was in the home, I ain't gonna tell you no lie. At that time, you know, 12, 13, 14, 10, 11, 12 years old, I thought that was the most retarded thing in the world. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what, your dad ain't in the home? So in my mind, I was thinking that everybody's supposed to have two parents in the home. You know what I mean? And so I
Right,
just thought that was strange. In my
right,
mind, I thought their family was off balance. I thought it was something that their family needed to go talk about to a professional, because in my mind I thought that was not right. And so as I talked to my partner Ikon, he was like, "Well, man, we close to the same age, so a lot of my partners, we didn't have dad in the home." And when he told me that, man, I can tell you for the life of me, when I was younger, I thought that was the most strangest thing in the world, because that's all I see. That's all I would see around me is two
right,
parents at home.
right. And I come from a long
yeah.
family. I come from a family line of long marriages. My grandparents. So all I've seen was, and even with my parents not being together, I had a stepdad that was in my life, and still is in my life since I was age 3, and I still had my dad also. So, and that's what I said about my son. His two-parent family home is now abnormal to him, because being around friends that doesn't have a two-parent family home is normal. So he's feeling abnormal for something that's supposed to be normal. But because he's outnumbered with all the friends that doesn't have a dad and a mom in the home at the same time, it's normalized. That's what
Mm,
it's supposed to be. You
right.
know,
Well, you know what is crazy about that is because even when you have two parent homes, sometimes if it's that toxic type of two family home, sometimes that could be even worse. Cause
yeah.
see, I grew up. The first marriage I ever seen was my grandmother and my granddad. and they were like, I don't know if you remember that movie, The War of the Roses.
Yes.
They was kind of almost like that. It was kind of like that dynamic where I seen a lot of, you know, I ain't gonna say violence, but I seen them going at each other in ways where wasn't healthy for a relationship. And so a lot of times that can affect a kid just as much as just if you have just one of the other parents in the home, when you have the two parents, because then you grow up feeling like, oh, love is violence and love looks like this or looks like that. That's why when I see certain reality shows like Blueface and Christian Rock, I'm like, this is not what Black love looks like.
No.
This is not what we're supposed to be representing each other with us showing this. So it bothers me in a tremendous way that we're setting ourselves back 20 years by showing our youth coming up, oh, this is what relationships looks like. No, that's not what relationships supposed to look like.
Absolutely not.
And I want to say this too. I want to say this. It was this older lady in my church. She probably might be one of the oldest people in my church. And I walked up to her a couple of years ago and I said, I just wanted to come over here and give you a hug because you the last of the big mamas. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we don't have anymore in the community. We don't have big mamas. We don't have that lady who get on you when she see you acting up in the streets. We don't have that community. I thought about this last night. The whole and Jacob will tell you, I get so disturbed about this snitching culture because we don't understand the difference in the two things. And because my grandmother and the older people in the neighborhood, if you do something around them, they call the police or they
exactly.
But people want to blur the lines and say, oh, no matter what, everybody's snitching, no matter if they're in the streets or not in the streets. And that's not how the community is supposed to be set up.
That's until it happened to them. When it happens to them and their loved one and their family. And so in my case, when I got shot, you know, of course, that was the same thing. My son was called a rat. I was called a rat. They said that my son told. And even if my son, and I'm going to set the record straight, he never said anything because he never got a chance to even see me after I got shot. I knew who did what to me because I am the parent that paid attention about who came in my house. You know, I could have a whole conversation with you and I could be listening and paying attention to somebody else in the room because growing up for me, my mother always used to say, watch your surroundings, pay attention, never take a shortcut. A shortcut will cut your life. So I've always remembered those things. So, you know, when I had to go to court, I was getting inboxes, you know, you're a rat, you're this. And I'm saying, to hell with that. I'll be damned if I let somebody come to my home where I live peacefully, minding my business, doing what I'm supposed to do, harm me and not stand up for me. So you could try all the witness intimidation tactics all you want to, but if I'm going to die, I'm going to die for standing up what is right, not is wrong. Now, if I did something to him, that would be something different. Or if my child did something to him, there probably would have been something different, right? Because what I always tell my children, no matter who you are, bad, good, and different, somebody has somebody who loves them. And that's the part they don't understand, you know? So the young man who did this to me and everything, you know, I got so much, you know, so much slack coming back to me because you did something wrong to me. And that's the thing. The snitching culture doesn't understand that if you come to somebody's home who's minding their business, who never did anything to harm anybody, who's out there doing what's right and everything, and you harm them, I'm not the snitch.
Well, Marty, I don't give two damns about no snitching culture.
I agree.
You know, cause I don't bust hammers. I ain't a street dude. I always work. You know what I mean? I don't try to take somebody else's goods cause I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And so the snitching culture is like, I mean, I can tell you now, if it comes to Jacob getting 40 years and I know something, well, I'm not gonna get 40 years. I'm telling. Point blank, period. I ain't doing 40 for nobody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And when it comes to my family and I have to protect them, or if I seen you do, or if I witness you do something to one of my family members and I'm in the hospital, but my sight is getting, I can still talk. Yeah, you got to go. You can say what you want to say, but Marty, you did the right thing, and I'm glad you stand on your principles.
Yes, because I think these young people nowadays, they lost that. They lost the morals and principles. They I think the reality of it, I think social media, I love social media. I'm on there all the time myself, but social media kind of destroyed them a little bit, right? And so because they use it in the wrong they use it wrong. That's not what the platform of social media was created to do. And so it's we have to come back to the drawing board. We got to come back. We got to build this foundation. We have to change some things, but we have to get some people on board that isn't afraid. Martin Luther King wasn't afraid. Malcolm X wasn't afraid. Marcus Garvey wasn't afraid. Harriet Tubman wasn't afraid. We got to get some people out here who isn't afraid to go here and fight the fight. And no matter if it's, because some lives going to have to be lost when you fight in a fight, right? But who's willing to do that? Who's willing to put their life on the line to save the next generation? Because everybody else is busy turning a blind eye and closing their ears and letting it fall on deaf ears. Who's willing to do that?
What's crazy? Because I think this generation, when they look back on the Martin Luther King, the Malcolm X, the Marcus Garvey, all these eras, they think that all this stuff was done overnight. They don't realize it took years.
Yes.
It took decades to get laws changed to have real effect. So it wasn't one of those things, even like the bus boycott. They went on for months. It wasn't like, oh, well, we just going to stop riding the bus for a couple of days and see what happened. No, they went months of walking and having a carpool and, walking to work, walking to the grocery store and all that kind of stuff. So they had to make major sacrifices for a long period of time. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think this generation doesn't realize when they start boycotting and fighting against certain things. They think, oh, we're supposed to get results by next week. Well, we don't. We just going to stop. You know what I'm saying? We just going to give up. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. We're going to move on to the next thing, because we're not getting the results we're looking for. And that's not how it works.
Exactly. And so we're not resolving nothing. We just like you said, and then once it's like a pimple, you keep on picking at it, and eventually it gets big and it bursts, and so it's a really tough, but you have to have the right people who's willing to come along, on that journey with you. Because I feel like if there was 300 plus Caucasian or white males being murdered in these cities, the cities would be shut down by any means necessary. If you had, it would be shut down. It's no way we should be allowing 300 males, Black American boys and men being gunned down by the hands of one another. It's not too much that we're being murdered by other people. Yeah, we hear the stories of the police officers, white cops killing our Black males, our boys and men, and females too. But I wasn't shot by a white male. I was shot by a Black male. I could count on my hand a couple times, flashing, how many people I know who lost sons and daughters to the street that was shot by people who look like them.
Since you say that, Marbury, that brings me back to a situation in Baltimore City. Freddie Gray.
Yes.
So as we look at the Freddie Gray situation, and you live in Baltimore City, and they were showing the Black officer that was responding to the call as well. And I said to myself, do people understand how they make Black America feel? Like you just said.
Yeah, and like it with the Freddie Gray situation, um, you know, to see that kind of corruption and to allow it to happen, um, that was sad. From and even from working in the healthcare field, and knowing that what they did to him and how his neck was broken and everything, all of that, we know for a fact that that was a homicide, right? And then to allow people who was responsible for that to get off of that and not hold them accountable for that. So then there's another problem, because now we're not holding people accountable for their actions. For the people who were supposed to protect and serve us, now we don't have nobody that we can trust, right? So
Right.
So you have the officers who are supposed to protect and serve us. You have the community who wants to go to them, but they don't feel like they're protected. So now you have all of those components come into place. You feel like, who do we go to? But I feel also in a situation like that, you stand up for yourself. You ain't gonna let nobody come up and sucker punch you and you're not gonna do nothing. You don't have to violently do stuff. You can stand up for yourself and let somebody know that, no, you're not going to do this to me. I don't care who you are. You're going to be accountable, and I'm going to hold you accountable for your actions. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. It has nothing to do with me.
Right. So I just want to say, I turn it back over to you. And so it got so strenuous with their whole case, where the prosecuting DA, district attorney, she was running with it first. Somebody must have said something to her or must have scared her up, because we didn't hear nothing else from her.
That prosecutor in that case is a strong Black woman. I don't think she was ever scared. I think she came to the home plate with what she needed to come to the home plate with, but she just didn't have the support. And and because she didn't have the support, we have officers that didn't get convicted, right? So in situations like that, again, if you're not having the right people to protect you and stand up for you, then of course, if I go to jail and I commit a murder, and I can't keep a witness protected because they've been intimidated by other people's circles, gang members or whatever, and we don't show up in court, or you don't show up in court, and that person gets off with your loved one murder, then who do we blame for that?
Right.
Okay. She went out for a minute.
Yeah.
She went out for a second. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I want to switch gears. So I wanted to talk before we get out of here too, because we short on time. I wanted to make sure we touched on what you have going on with the writing and the television and everything you got going on. So kind of speak to us on what you got going on when it comes to those things.
Okay. So I have a talk show that comes on every Friday at 11 a.m. That comes on the network in Prince George's County, Maryland, WBGR TV. It is shown on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook Live. I believe it's Apple TV also. So my talk show comes on. We talk about women empowerment, community issues, survivor stories, testimonies. And I'm just trying to get it out there, because in Baltimore City, there's a lot going on. And we have a lot of people in Baltimore that's looking for our mayor and our commissioner to do all the work. Nobody wants to come out and do the work. Everybody wants to point a finger, but nobody wants to do the work. So I want to shed light on Baltimore to let everyone know that Baltimore City isn't just the news that you see with the murders. You know, Baltimore City is full of people who are willing to go out there and help the community, who have survivor stories, who have testimonies, who have lost loved ones to the streets. You know, we are a city that's full of talent, but if you don't get an opportunity to see that, because when you turn on the 11 o'clock or the 6 p.m. news or whatever, and all of you seeing is there's been shooting in this part of town or shooting in that part of town, of course you're going to get a bad rap. So that's what was my reasoning for starting the talk show. You know, the book that I had that just came out was just a collaboration book on about love, and you know, to don't give up on love. And my portion in the book, chapter in the book, is about until death do us part, because 4 months ago I lost my husband due to a stroke. And that's something I also wanted to get out there. You know, getting into the community with helping our Black men and boys. You know, we starting to see a lot of them suffering from strokes and heart attacks and diabetes and, you know, other issues that they're having because of these specific diseases and stuff. So we need to get out there and start educating our community. So that's my goal, is to just get out there and let people know that we have a whole lot of work to do. And I need their help so they can help me, so I can help the next group of young people that's coming up to become, you know, the activists, the motivators, the entrepreneurs that they need to become, because I'm now walking in the shoes of my parents, and I'm soon to be walking in the shoes of my grandparents, you know, even though I have grandchildren, but my time is going to come up. You know, it's going to come where it's not going to be a Marty or Murray no more, you know. So I need to educate the next generation so that they can keep this legacy going on.
And you know what's crazy, because I seen the comedian Chico Bean on an interview, and he's from the DC area, and I know Baltimore's in DC, Virginia, all those places kind of connected, and y'all not that far from each other. And he said the reason why it hits different from y'all when it comes to politics is because these people are coming to y'all communities and eat in the neighborhoods and walk around and shop and do all this other stuff. They see what's going on. They see the homelessness. They see the violence. They see the, you know, the rundown neighborhoods and the schools, and they do nothing about it. But they're coming there and have their meetings, in the Capitol buildings and all this other stuff, and then walk right out the neighborhood like they Ray Charles or something. Like they don't see what's going on. And he said that's why for y'all, it's hard to even get people to go out and vote, because they already know, oh, these people don't care about us.
Absolutely. And I agree with Chico Bing, because you know what, in Baltimore, for it to be a rather small city, you know, we used to have a population of like 600,000. I think we're like lower than that because everybody is moving out of the city and going other places. But, you know, we have a very diverse city. You know, we got places like Little Italy. We have places, Greektown. We have some communities like in the Fells Point, Canton area. And what bothers me a whole lot, and I had gotten emotional one time when I was going, because I used to go to a middle school back in the years ago, Canton Middle School. But now when you go into these communities, you have, which is mostly populated by, you know, Caucasian people. But when you go in these communities, they have these little houses that sit on the corners that they done started nice little pizza spots and cafes and all of these wonderful things, right? And then you go to the other side, we have like a park that divide us in East Baltimore. It's called Patterson Park. And so you go to the other side of the park and you have the heavy population of more African American community, and we have these bars on every corner, and we have these gas stations on every corner that sells, the pipes, the bongs, and stuff that you smoke your marijuana out of, and your hookah instruments and all that kind of stuff. And so it's and we don't even have any in Baltimore City. It's a food desert. They don't even have supermarkets in the city to help these people to either eat healthy and properly and things. You know, you got to go to a supermarket in a white community to get. And and also in Baltimore, we have a large population, a Jewish community. And one thing we know about the Jewish community is their dollars circulate in their community about 12 times before it even comes out. We in the Black community, we get paid on a Friday. But when we go to the corner store, it doesn't belong to us. The gas station doesn't belong to us. You know, the hair stores doesn't belong to us. Nothing in our community belongs to us. So when we spend our dollar, it's not coming back to us. It's not coming back to our youth programs. It's not coming back to help our seniors. It's not coming back to us at all. So we have to depend on outside resources in order to get money to come back into our communities to help us.
This is true. This is true.
You know, so we're suffering and we're paying the price for everybody. But, you know, and this is what we need to teach our young people. You know, they going around town in Baltimore, taking down all these historical statues. How are you going to erase history? You can't erase history. It needs to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jay, you got anything else left to say before we wrap this up?
No, man. Marty, I just want to say, you know, it's always a pleasure, man. You know, you my girl, I rock with you. So, and I just tell you to keep striving for excellence, keep standing on your principles, and keep kicking on doors, man. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I'm gonna have to get you guys to come on the Classy Marty show and talk about some things.
Oh yeah, definitely open for that. And I definitely want to say this. I want to commend you because of the fact that somebody who got shot 10 times and for you to still be here strong, willing to help out in the community, willing to lend your voice, it takes a strong, I'm gonna say Black female. I'm just gonna put it out there. It takes a strong Black female to do that because a lot of people would be angry, they would be bitter, they would want vengeance, they would want all kind of stuff to happen to the person that did that to them, but you went the opposite way and decided that you're gonna forgive, and maybe those type of things are what make our youth change to be like, man, I did this to this woman, and you know, and she just still decided to forgive me instead of trying to, you know, basically, you know, serve violence with violence or vengeance with vengeance. She decided to forgive me, so maybe, and I think that's what you were saying with the youth of today. They're looking at, they're seeing all their peers dying left and right. And a lot of them saying, I don't want to go down that path. Because when we grew up, you might have seen a death here and there, but not like this. Not like this. I've seen more of my kids' classmates die since the time they was out of high school 3-4 years ago. And I'm here 25, 30 years out of high school. And, you know, I mean, I could probably count on both hands my classmates that died, and I can maybe only name none of them died from gun violence. I can tell you that.
Right.
You know whatever. So yeah, I definitely commend you. And you know, like I said, anytime you want to come on, we here for it because that's what we here for. That's what this whole platform is for. Is to educate our communities and to, you know, hopefully still we try to do our part. And everybody like, well, what's your part? This is me and Jacob's part.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And before we wrap this up, even in my case, because it was 4 young men who came to my house. It was a driver, a passenger. It was a driver and 3 passengers. 2 people got out the car, but one of the young men, which kind of broke my heart when the detective told me, one of the young men committed suicide. In my case, and it broke my heart when I heard. You know, because he probably said when they got back in the car, I have a mother. You know, when they thought that I died, he probably said, they just murdered somebody's mother. I have a mother. You know, and I even wanted to reach out to his mom to let his mom know she don't have to carry that burden because I forgive her son. I forgive her son too. right? She don't have to carry that burden.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, yeah, like I said, that's a powerful story, and you need to be around it. You need to. I hope people have you go around the country to tell your story, because you need the world needs to hear your story. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, like whatever we can do to help, get the word out and be part of what you got going on, and and lend our eyes and ears or whatever, and mouths or whatever, we here for it. So you have a blessed rest of your weekend, rest of the year, and we know I'm gonna be here to see you get to the top. You know what I mean, or whatever. So I appreciate you coming on this morning, because you could be anywhere, but you came on with Jacob and Ikon E. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right.
Marty,
so until next time, y'all, everybody out there,
always a pleasure.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying? I appreciate everybody. Come on till next time, y'all.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
We got the good vibes, got the 1942 pouring in my cup.